Guess I need to turn my, let me hit my little M button so you don't hear me.
Greetings, peoples. How's everyone doing? It's been a little while. Been anything going on? I'll tell you, there have been some things going on. Thank you, Pedro. I look forward to talking to you here soon, next week. And yes, it has been a little while since like May 21st, and you're wondering where the hell has he been? I'll tell you where the hell I have been. I've been busy. Busy making the magazines we do here at Fantasy Sports Publications. Hope you run out and get them, or go to the website, footballdiehards.com, go to the order page. You can order them directly from there. Hi, Andrea, and have them delivered directly to your door. Get a little, hey, Robert, get a little bit of the online subscription with the magazine. Buy the magazine, get the subscription, buy the subscription, get a magazine. Hey, Sally, how you doing? Look forward to seeing you next month in Canton, Ohio. Looking forward to next week, going to Los Angeles next weekend for the Scott Fish Bowl. It won't be a regular live stream next Saturday, but I'm going to try and do some, thanks, Andrew, appreciate those words. I'm going to try and do a little live streaming from the event. It'll be me and Fabiano, Jeff Ratcliffe's there, a bunch of people there, Liz Loza. Don't want to sell anybody short, so I don't want to do half the list of not everybody, but a big list of people. You can go to the Scott Fish Bowl website and check that out and see who all is going to be there. Live draft at Trophy Smack headquarters. Should be a good time. But yeah, the magazines, Pro Forecast should be on newsstands. Great articles by some of your favorites. Marcus Grant, Gary Davenport, Jamie Calandro, Casey Joyner, Adam Pfeiffer, Matt Waldman, Brad Cruz. I might have written an article or two. We have the cheat sheets and the draft book. The draft book, usual good stuff. Gary Davenport, Justin Linero put together the 25 tips and tricks article that's so fantastic. Get some of the great experts in the industry to provide you some items, some strength of schedule there. Liz Loza has an article in that one, her deep sleepers. The DLF people come up with all the time a good dynasty article. We've got Gary Davenport, Mike Waller doing some IDP work in there as well. Jamie Calandro in addition. The cheat sheets also, some of the same cast, but some great experts, including Scott Kobe, who you often see in this chat, chipping in. Thanks, Troy. Chipping in with some expert opinion. A number of the high stakes players, various experts out there. Great articles from Jim Coventry from RotoWire. Mike Valverde did a great SOS. Chase Vernon from Trophy Smack, who I'll see this weekend. Jamie, Daniel Kelly doing an O-line piece. Dennis Bennett on the dynasty work. Howard Balzer, the great Howard Balzer, a venerable veteran journalist doing the team reviews. Gary and myself chipping in. Evan Tarchiano doing a great job on the capsules in that one. Of course, the Diehards magazine. We just finished this week, so that's why I'm back. Articles in the Diehards. Got some newcomers in there, some really great writers. Marcus Mosher's in there, doing a great job on that. Just some really great stuff. So hope you all check those out. Go to the website again, footballdiehards.com. You can place your order directly, or you'll find them in bookstores everywhere. Bookstores, supermarkets, grocery stores, Walmart's, all the CVS's, all the drugstores, all the places you go to buy your stuff. That's where you'll find them. Always a big effort, and have a great time. Welcome back. Got the 4 mags by mail. Appreciate that. And all the, the expert opinions. I say expert. I kind of like to use the word professional rather than expert, but really great contributions from a huge cast of characters, most of whom you know in this industry. And again, I don't want to shout out the whole list because I'll forget somebody and make me feel bad later. But it's okay. And so I, of course, missed doing the live streams. And again, next week, maybe try to do something from my phone from the Scott Fish Bowl draft. But we'll get this regular, and we're going to start doing some. I know I've been threatening, but we're going to work it out maybe this week. The middle of the week, we're going to do a mock draft on here. So I'll be putting something out on Twitter, and at FF Diehards handle will be putting something out to get some of you to join me in a sleeper. 3 mags by mail. 4th probably coming soon. But we'll do a sleeper mock draft on the Sleeper app. So we'll need some of y'all to jump in. So looking forward to getting those cranked up again. We'll kind of do those live and have commentary on those while we draft. And so we appreciate you guys jumping in when you do to help us out and give us some content to talk through. And it's always great doing drafts. There's no better way to test your theories. Hey, Adam, appreciate you coming. No better way to test your theories and get yourself ready than to do the mock drafts. I do a ton of best ball myself. Mike Dempsey, you hear us on Sirius. By the way, little news on that front as well. The Sirius XM Football Diehard Show every day, every weekday, Monday through Friday, 8 to 10 Eastern time. Easy to find, no moving around, no moving pieces. You might still hear me on Fantasy Dirt on occasion, but back to our show full time is great, and we'll see what happens as we get closer to the season, hoping to do the pregame and maybe a little Saturday stint on NFL radio again, as we have done the last few years. But Mike Dempsey and I getting busy. And Dempsey and I have been doing tons of best ball drafts, and I mean tons. I'm not doing as many as Dempsey. He'll hit 100 here pretty soon. I'm not going to – I'll about hit that halfway mark here soon. But I'll ramp it up as we get closer to the season. I know some of you will see in Canton when I go to the Kings Classic draft. Kevin O'Brien looking forward to the great 2022 season. He's having trouble linking my teams to Fantasy GM, says website has experienced an error. Contact website administrator. I will put the technical people on this, Kevin. If you want to send me an email, Bob at Football Diehards, I'll see if I can't find some assistance for you there. And let's see. Been a little news this week. Apparently, the trade of Baker Mayfield to the Carolina Panthers. I mean, kind of half expected this, right? There a lot of talk about it, and it just seemed like the only thing between that deal and getting done was the money, and they got the money figured out, and the Browns will pay the bulk of Baker Mayfield's salary, and he did a little bit of a restructure, so the Browns are on the hook for about $10 million, the Panthers for about $5 million. Incentives can take it up to $8 million, so he makes the full $18 million that he was due. Some interesting things about this trade. Number one, I know they're going to say that it's a open competition between Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. Probably not quite open, right? Talk to some people in Carolina. It's a competition in name only. Baker Mayfield was brought there to start. They know what they have in Sam Darnold. We all know what they have in Sam Darnold, right? And unless, Baker, and they also, you want to say that in case, maybe Baker's struggling or whatever, you can then go back to, well, we said all along it was a competition and Sam Darnold was just better. Okay. We know Sam Darnold is not great. We know, the Carolina offense in general, when you look at it, I mean, from a fantasy perspective, it's a 2-piece squad, right? Are you drafting anyone other than in best ball where you're taking flyers, maybe on Robbie Anderson, although I hear he's not a fan of Baker Mayfield. He says he is. I don't know if he is. Said he was supporting Sam Darnold. But, Terrace Marshall Jr., one of those guys that looks like a great player who's just maybe stuck in a bad situation. The tight ends, Tommy Tremble, looked like he, showed some signs of life as a rookie last season. Is that something we want to hang our hat on in fantasy? No, there's an entire universe of tight end twos that I would rather take a chance on. Ian Thomas has proven to be a great blocker, not much more than that. So it's Christian McCaffrey and DJ Moore. So what does Baker Mayfield do for them? I think he raises the ceiling a little bit for DJ Moore, but let's face it, this guy has been incredibly productive, at least 1,100 yards going right up through the, through every season. He puts, no matter who the quarterback is, right? He's got a quarterback-proof card, essentially. And so, I just got a question for Robert. I read the article in Draft Book Mag on 15 so he uses a stomp tool. There are articles up on how to use a stomp tool, and I'll have to find the link to that. For me, it's self-explanatory, but if you want to go in there, I'll have to find some links to that. I'm sorry, Robert, I wasn't ready for that. Let me see if I can get one. See if we can get that squared away. I thought there was a link in the actual article, but maybe not. So, okay, we'll work on that for you. So now I've lost my spot. All right, so DJ Moore has been super consistent, 1,100 yards a season every year, regardless quarterback, been pretty much quarterback proof. The thing lacking in his game has been touchdowns. So maybe he gets more of those. Maybe he doesn't. Like some year you think he's going to put it all together, and I think we'll probably be overpaying the next year for those touchdowns as we tend to do. If you've been listening to me on the radio, you know I'm all in on Christian McCaffrey. I'll draft him early. You don't have to, right? I get it. There's, we all understand the situation with him. He missed 23 games the last 2 years. When he's been healthy, he's good for about 30 points a game. And, I'm willing to bet on the upside. And I've talked to some people about this. I know I was talking to my old friend Greg Kellogg, who's getting back into business. I'm going to do a draft with him here next month. And, he was admonishing me because I always have something I always say, and it's kind of a cliche thing, but don't draft last year's best team. It's a real easy way to say, you don't bank on, guys who are super productive in 1 year. And I'll talk about Austin Eckler because I think that's an issue, right? But you're drafting these guys, anyone you're drafting in the first round, you're drafting at their ceiling, right? And you're not going to get them somewhere else. And so Greg Kellogg came to me, wow, you're not taking your own advice. You're drafting last year's best team. Well, no, I'm drafting some of last year's best players because you have to draft somebody in the first round. Because why? Even if I think there are players who are going outside the first round who are going to be first rounders next year, I don't have to pay for them, right? Look, I think Leonard Fournette and James Conner are going to be running back ones again this year. They were last year as well, but I think they will be again this year. But I'm not having to pay that first round premium to get them in most cases. Maybe Fournette's crept up there in a few drafts. But James Conner, I'm not having to pay for that. So I think what if I think he's going to be the best back in football, hypothetically speaking? Do I have to take him with the first pick overall? No, it would be stupid. I mean, because I don't want to pay that value. So what you're doing is, you're going to have to pay a certain amount for guys in the first round. There's a certain group of players that tend to go in the first round. You have to draft somebody in the first round. Do you want to take your player B who you think is going to produce at that level? Or do you want to wait and pay the going price for that player or pay just ahead? And I'm going to put up a link to that stomp tool, which helps you do that, draft just a little ahead of ADP and helps you target players you want. And I'll put the link up right here. And this is for you as well, Robert. So you can use that. And it is a video explaining all that. So, but that's the thing here, right? I mean, so I like Christian McCaffrey early. And we had a question here from Brian Larkin about Austin Eckler saying he wants fewer touches. And how many touches should we expect from Spiller? So this is a great one for me. Austin Eckler, is going anywhere from 1 to 6, right? Generally speaking. Is that a fair price to pay? Sure. I mean, it's the going price. Do I think there are players who have a chance of outperforming Austin Eckler? Yes. I think, you look at his 20 touchdown output last year, 12 of them were rushing touchdowns. That's 9 more than he's ever had before. Is it fair to assume there's going to be some touchdown regression there for him? Yes, and for Jonathan Taylor. Yet we're still drafting Jonathan Taylor 1 overall. Why? Because that's what you have to pay for him, right? That's the going rate. Like if you want someone else number 1, you're welcome to take them, right? You can take whoever you want. But I think the key here is what you have to pay for a player, not what you are paying for a player. So again, in Eckler's case, the question is specific is about Spiller. The Chargers have swung and missed each of the last 2 years. Joshua Kelly and then Larry Roundtree the third. I don't know if there was great expectations for them. Spiller's a different cat, though. He was, widely viewed as one of the top 3 by many of the pre-draft pundits out there, running backs. And so maybe they found the right guy that can turn into that Melvin Gordon style player or complement to Austin Eckler, who, again, he says he wants fewer touches. At 200 last year, maybe he gets that same number again. Will he still get those 12 touchdowns? That's a question for me. So again, there's a distinction between not drafting last year's best team and not drafting last year's best players. Sorry, you have to draft some of those guys. It's inevitable. Like you could avoid them all, and you could draft a bunch of guys you project to come out of nowhere in the first, second, third round. But are you getting great value that way? And that's the key to fantasy success, is drafting for value, finding players who are going to outperform the price you pay. And so that's why I go Christian McCaffrey early, because when he's been healthy, and go to Dwayne McFarland on Twitter, and he had a nice thread on this, but just the scoring Christian McCaffrey's done going back to 2018. I think it was 2018, it was 14 and almost 15 points per game. Since then, it's been 25 to 30 points per game for Christian McCaffrey when he's been healthy. He hasn't been healthy the whole time. I look at the current ADP, generally speaking, 8 of the 12 players have missed time due to injury. Am I not drafting them? No, I'm drafting the hell out of Derrick Henry. Yes, he got hurt last year. Yes, he's had a big workload. Might there be a player I like better, I feel more comfortable with? Najee Harris, a younger player, doesn't have as much mileage on him, but still gets that high, that super high workload. Yeah, maybe I'm more comfortable with him, and that's fine, right? But those are the things those are the considerations you're making in the first round. So got a question here. Is there any value to how good Sam was with McCaffrey before McCaffrey got hurt? Baker scares me. I haven't seen that correlation, mostly because Darnold's been pretty bad. And so I don't know if I haven't felt the need to Pedro jump in and do a little bit of calculating on that and try and figure out, how good he was. Baker doesn't really scare me. I mean, I think he's an upgrade over Darnold if we get the, not last year's, because he was beat up. He was hurt. He played reasonably well the year before. And just in general, his touchdown totals have been pretty solid. I was looking at this yesterday. Let me bring it back up here, and just so I can not speak from a view of ignorance. But you're looking at the touchdown totals as a rookie, 27, 22, 26, 17 last year when he was all beat up in 14 games. The yardage totals have not been spectacular, 37, 38, 27 was the high in that 2019 season, which was a pretty damn good year. But generally speaking, I mean, I think you expect a little more mobility, a little more competence, and a little better leadership than you get from Sam Darnold. So Baker does not scare me in this case. I don't know that he's a huge upgrade, but he's not a downgrade to me. Jimmy Williams wants to know if I consider Brandon Cooks, Marquise Brown, Allen Robinson to Bruce's wide receiver 2 and 12-team PPR order and ranking them. Also, please, I like all 3 of those guys. I probably go Cooks, Robinson, Brown, but if it ended the other way, they're all in a really tight knot for me. And Brown's in a really good opportunity, right? He goes to Arizona where he knows Kyler Murray from their time together in college. He was super productive in the time they played together in college. DeAndre Hopkins is going to miss the first 6 games. Can Marquise Brown establish himself as the number 1 option in that offense over those 6 weeks and keep it, retain that role even after Hopkins returns? It's possible. That seems less likely than Allen Robinson continuing to produce at a high level. Brandon Cooks is certainly going to keep his wide receiver 1. He's been very effective. I might be a little too in on Brandon Cooks, so take that into account. And again, using ADP is a valuable asset here. And this is the thing about ADP. It's not telling you where to draft guys. It's telling you where they're going. It's telling you, it's helping inform you as to when you need to draft somebody, right? Not so much as when you have to. So if you want Brandon Cooks and you see his ADP is lower, well, you don't have to draft him as early. You can still reach around, and make sure you feel comfortable that you're going to get him without overpaying too much. Allen Robinson, I think, is in a great position. It's easy to forget after last year how good he has been over the course of his career with a series of horrible quarterbacks. Has been one of the most productive receivers in the NFL, playing with the likes of Blake Bortles at times and various other quarterbacks. And now he's playing with Matthew Stafford, who last year was very good and who probably will be very good this year. Cooper Kupp, I know, playing opposite of him. I don't know that that's going to be a limiting factor. We're all expecting regression for Cooper Kupp. It's a question of how much, but I mean, it's a once-in-a-lifetime season because probably it's going to happen only once in a lifetime. It'd be very surprising to see him duplicate last year's totals. I think Allen Robinson is in a good place. Obviously Robert Woods has moved on. Odell Beckham, not yet back with the team. So a lot to like there. And in Brown, I mean, again, the 6-week clear path to workload. For me, Brandon Cooks, one of the things that appeals to me has just been super consistently productive over the course of his career. There's been only 2 years, 1 year when he didn't get 1,000 yards, and that was due to injury mostly. In LA, I think he had a concussion. There was one other year, maybe he came a little short. So I like him an awful lot, but part of this is my belief that Davis Mills is going to get better, right? And I know that's maybe seems a little reachy. Pep Hamilton, now the offensive coordinator there. I like him. I like what he's done in the past. Had some hand in the development of Justin Herbert as well, and others beyond that. But also, if you remember Davis Mills, I think he only started 11 games in college. They thrust him into the starting role last year, and he was horrible early on. Tyrod Taylor, or Tyrod, depending on which day it is, came back in and then got hurt again. And then when Davis Mills came in down the stretch last year, I thought he showed a lot of progress and a lot of development. Houston seems to be pretty much all in on him. So I'm confident enough that he'll fuel Brandon Cooks. But I think all three of these guys, you can kind of, pick your poison there. I like them in the order I said. But I think they're all in that same tier. So feel free. Adam Erickson wants to know if Jonathan Taylor really can't miss number one pick. Do I see him regressing this year? Does he have a more consistent quarterback up his game? Or does it mean Hines will steal some touches from him? So I think he's, for me, he's the locked in number one. And that's the thing about this. I do a lot of best balls, as I mentioned, and I think probably 95% of the time I've seen him go number one overall. So unless you have the number one pick, this conversation is irrelevant, right? You're probably not going to get him. Is he a can't miss pick? No, there's no such thing. I mean, every pick can miss, right? So I do see some regression. I mentioned that Austin Eckler's 20 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor also had 20. I think he might not score 20 this year, right? That's a good number. So yeah, there will be some regression there. What I don't see though is anyone with any greater path to workload. He showed something as a receiver last year. I know Matt Ryan is, whether you view him as an upgrade or not. I mean, we're not getting 2016 Matt Ryan, the MVP Super Bowl quarter, the MVP season of him. Also the embarrassing Super Bowl loss by his Falcons. But so I thought Jonathan Taylor looked like a really good receiver last year. He looked like a dangerous playmaker when they got him the ball in open field. I'm hoping they do that more. But Nyheim Hines, they've talked about this, that he'll play more of a role. I've talked to some people in Indy and asked them, should this be a concern if we're all in on Jonathan Taylor? All of them say no, that this will be sometimes it's it's addition by addition. They're going to try to get Hines on the field more with Taylor and not as opposed to Taylor, because I don't think they want to take Taylor off the field much. I've talked to Jonathan Taylor, and he will remind you when it comes to concerns about his health or workload. This is not a new thing for him. This goes back to high school. This goes back to college. He'll remind you he never missed a practice in college, right? And he was a heavy usage player in those games in college. So I think it's consistent. He has a great offensive line for running. So, I mean, there's just a lot of stability there, right? So some continuity in scheme. I mean, he's done this with different quarterbacks. And I don't think, this is a downgrade at all. I mean, he's done it with Phillip Rivers. I think both Wentz and Matt Ryan are upgrades over Rivers. We'll see if Ryan is an upgrade over Wentz. I suspect he will be. But either way, that just makes it a more effective offense, and that helps everybody involved in the offense. So I do think he's locked in. If you like somebody better, you're not going to get them somewhere else. That's the thing about the first round. Again, if you like Christian McCaffrey better than you like Jonathan Taylor, if you like Cooper Kupp better than you like him, well, if you have the number one pick, you're never going to have a chance to get those guys outside of an auction. So those are the things you have to take into consideration, Adam. I like him as the number one. I would probably take him in the picks I've had number one. I've probably taken him 90% of the time. And I talk about this, when I talk about, 90% of the time, again, I'm not doing just one draft. I'm doing a ton of drafts, right? So I have the opportunity. I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. So if I have, by the time the season rolls around, I've been 100 plus drafts. I don't want 100, and I had 100 first round picks, just say I don't. Let's say I have 25. Do I want 25 Jonathan Taylors on those teams? Probably want to differentiate a little bit because I have so many. But if I'm in one league, it's a pretty simple question to me. I'm probably taking Jonathan Taylor. And by probably, I mean absolutely. Hope that helped. Jimmy Williams, if possible, could you speak on Amon-Ra Ross St. Brown too? I can. Because I talked to Benjamin Raven from MLive.com a couple times in the last month, and he's been pretty consistent in his expectations. Down the stretch, I think was it 5 or 6 games. Help me out there if you would like. Whatever it was, that run down the stretch last season, he had at least 10 targets per game. As Benjamin Raven says, he's not going to get 10 targets a game. He's probably going to get 6 per 7. But it's going to be over the course of the whole season. So expecting him to put up numbers similar to last year isn't, overall numbers similar to last year isn't a huge reach, right? So look at the totals from last season. We had 119 targets, 90 catches, 912 yards, 5 touchdowns. If he got that same number of targets again this year and a similar number of catches, a similar number of touchdowns, maybe even more yardage, because, it was not like I think he averaged 10.1 yards per catch. Maybe he can bump that total up a little bit. But there are other pieces there. TJ Hawkinson, if he's healthy, and Benjamin Raven believes that Hawkinson, if he's healthy all year, he's the guy that'll get double-digit targets every game. DeAndre Swift will be in the hunt for those targets as well. DJ Chark coming on board, Jameson Williams, who doesn't sound like he'll be ready for the start of the season, but at some point he'll be there, right? So he'll be a factor as well. So those might be, ceiling cappers, but boy, expecting him, I think he was wide receiver 2 down that stretch, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think that's an overreach. You're not having to pay that. Nobody seems to expect it in the current ADPs. You'll find him down in the tail end of the wide receiver 2s. I want to say, let me bring up the current NFFC. I think is kind of useful because it's people that are invested. Let me see where Amon-Ra St. Brown is going. He's wide receiver 24, the tail end of the wide receiver 2s. I don't think that's out of touch. By the way, on those ADPs, Brandon Cooks is going 23 overall. Marquise Brown going 18 overall. Allen Robinson is going 21 overall. So the world likes Brown and Robinson a little more than I do. I like Brandon Cooks ahead of them. They're all in the same tier. And again, so if you could gain a little value, or if you're looking to gain a little value, that might be the guy to go to. The clear-cut number 1 in that offense, where the others, I believe, are clear-cut. Well, Brown will be clear-cut number 1 for some period, but will it last all year? That's the question. So there you have it on Amon-Ra St. Brown. As I trip over my green screen, that was nice. Would I pick Derrick Henry over Cooper Kupp? I would. So I just did this in a draft. I'm doing a mock draft right now in full-time fantasy. They'll have a video assessment of this out. We're all doing that, so watch for that. But it's a half-point PPR, that league. So that would be the defining, or kind of the calling point. I have Henry 3 overall and Kupp 4 in my rankings. So I went with my rankings. I think you can make an argument. Just depends on your flavor of the day. I'll just say this on Derrick Henry, right? 219 carries over the first 8 games last season. By far the highest scoring running back in fantasy over that span. That was you project that over a full season, that's over 400 carries. I don't think that seems like a good idea. I'm hoping they dial him back, but 350, 1,500 yards seems very reasonable. Again, what I'm drafting early in drafts more is path to workload and potential for upside. I think when you look at guys like McCaffrey, Taylor, that whole crew and Cooper Kupp is one of those. You're getting all of those things. So wouldn't have a problem anyone taking Kupp over Henry or over McCaffrey, or hell, if you thought he was going to come close to duplicating last year, picking him first overall, I wouldn't argue with you. I've seen him go first overall in some best ball drafts. And for the reason I stated, I'm guessing is because you're not getting him otherwise. The whole San Francisco team, says Andrew Leach, has scared me. Is Mitchell the true number 1, or is it a committee? What will Debo be like with Lance at quarterback? These are all great questions. I'm drafting. I think Mitchell, you're getting fair value because people don't know what he's going to be. I think you highlight a concern. I think if he repeats as the leading rusher for the San Francisco 49ers, he will be the first running back in a Mike Shanahan. I'm old. Kyle Shanahan offense to do that since Devonta Freeman did it in Atlanta in 2016. So that has not been the norm. And we've all seen, how the situation could be. I think he goes in as the true number 1. And I think the price you're paying for him right now is not exorbitant. I think that's kind of baked into the cake. He's kind of going off as running back 23. I had guys like J.K. Dobbins, who's coming off a torn ACL, Antonio Gibson, Breece Hall, David Montgomery. So I think he's kind of in the right range there, a little ahead of Josh Jacobs, A.J. Dillon, and a handful of others. So I'm not against him going where he's going. And again, maybe, they bring in the rookie, Tyrion Price-Davis. I mean, maybe he's going to be good, right? I mean, they drafted him. They invested some draft capital in him. What was he, a 3rd round? Tyrion Davis-Price. That's 3rd rounder. So, yeah. So, I mean, look, and Trey Sermon is still there. So I get the concerns. And the year-to-year kind of turnover they've had at that position could easily happen again. I do think they like Mitchell an awful lot, though. And Debo, we saw brief times of him together with Lance, and there was, I think, some big plays involved, or at least one big scoring play on a short pass with a big long run. Oh, look, I think if Trey Lance is the starting quarterback for this team, it's because this coaching staff thinks he's going to make this offense better. I have other questions about Debo. I think the price is pretty high. I don't know which Debo we're getting exactly. Are they going to keep using him as a runner? Does that increase injury concerns? When he wasn't running, he was catching more passes. So I don't think the value is bad for him where he's going. It's a pretty high. The ADP right now is a wide receiver 7. I like Mike Evans going after him better. I like Tyreek Hill going after him better. I feel more comfortable with Keenan Allen at number 10 being a proven guy. So it's not, and just going off ahead of him is CeeDee Lamb, Stephon Diggs, the usual, cast of characters as you would think. I'm a little bit more comfortable with some of the guys going ahead of him, and I'm tending to draft other positions, drafting Deebo Samuel. So I'm not getting a lot of him, and I want to say I'm skeptical, but not really. I mean, I don't think that's an unfair value based on what he did last year. And again, when he wasn't running the ball, he was catching a hell of a lot more. So again, not against Debo, not concerned too much about Lance. I think as long as he's starting, it's because the team thinks he'll start. I don't think they're forcing him in. They didn't force him in last year. I think they believe he's ready. Jerry Rice said it the other day that he's going to be fantastic. So I don't know if Jerry Rice is a great assessor of quarterbacks, but he's played with some great ones, right? So Mark Spafford, with Dylan rising in ADP, does that scare you away from Aaron Jones? No. Room for both of them. And one of the things about Aaron Jones, just about this offense in general, with Davante Adams gone, Aaron Rodgers needs trusted targets. Aaron Jones is that for him. Also, Davante Adams has been an amazing red zone threat, right? I mean, he's a guy that not necessarily, well, even up to including, I mean, there have been times where he looks like the de facto goal line back. They throw him that little quick out right at the goal line, or just let him, slant in and break, make a play. So maybe we see Aaron Jones take a little more of a role in the passing game near the goal line with Davante Adams back. Maybe that would make some room for Robert Tonyan as well. I do think you're going to see A.J. Dillon run the ball a heck of a lot. I think they would like to run the ball more. I think last year he ran a fair amount, and he can catch too. So, no, I think this is a case where there can be two backs in this offense that are going to be very productive. I might go with Dillon because I want to pay the cheaper price. But drafting Jones where he's going right now is fairly defensible. I want to look it up and see. Aaron Jones is going pretty high here. Running back 10. That's maybe a little rich for my blood. There's some guys after him that I like better, but honestly, I don't think it's like crazy out of the range of possible outcomes. A.J. Dillon going at 25, though. I like that price a little better. So I might be going in that direction. But again, it's not scaring me off Aaron Jones. I'm probably drafting other guys at that point. Evelyn Ruiz, Keeper League. 10-point PPR. She can keep 2. Already keeping Jonathan Taylor in the 6th round, but who do I keep in Najee Harris in the 1st or Joe Mixon in the 3rd? Thinking win this year. Oy, that is crazy. I mean, I would reap the value a little bit and take Joe Mixon in the 3rd. I think he and Harris are in that same tier. I do like Harris slightly better, but he wasn't crazy efficient last year. I mean, the per carry average wasn't great. Just the workload was great. And you wonder if the new quarterback, whoever it is, will dump off as much to the running back as Ben Roethlisberger did last year, and that was a big part of Najee's production. That said, Joe Mixon, they don't seem to view him as a passing or receiving asset, so he does come off the field some. Still, I'd probably lean Mixon given that 3rd-round value and look to use that 1st-round pick on somebody else. A few two for you. Hi, Bob. Glad you're back. So am I. And again, might not be back next week exactly like this. I'm hoping I'm going to the Scott Fishbowl live draft in Los Angeles. I'll be part of that. And I mentioned some of the people that I'll be drafting with. I should do that again because it is pretty cool. This year, first time doing the live thing. It'll be, let's see, who do we have? Major Caldwell from Dynasty Vipers, Michael Fabiano, myself, my good friend Mauricio Gutierrez, his fantastic work. Samantha Holt from Dr. Roto, Liz Loza, Jeff Ratcliffe will be there, my serious colleague from Fade the Noise, Matt Okada from NFL, John Paulson from 4 for 4. What a great deal. Lindsay Rhodes will be there from Fantasy Dirt as well. My colleague there, some of the Trophy Smack people, including Chase Vernon, my good friend, will be there. And the actor, Thomas Everett Scott. Oh, my goodness. A great fantasy player is he. So I'm going to try and do some live streaming from there next Saturday. Wednesday is the tentative plan here. We're going to try and do a mock draft and analyze it, use that mock draft to kind of talk through and do some analysis while we're here. So any of you want to get in on that, we'll happily have you. I'll put out a tweet that day and give you an opportunity to sign up for that draft. It'll be a 12-team PPR and pretty short timer. So if you get in on it, be there and do it right so I can talk about your draft and say nice things instead of mean things. All right, Brian M. Good morning, Bob. Do you project Davante Adams as the top 4 wide receiver with Kupp, Jefferson, Chase? I do. And, Stephon Diggs is in that conversation, I think, as well. If someone likes him a little more, I don't blame them. He's in the continuity there is great. And, I think everyone knows this. Davante Adams played college football at Fresno State with Derek Carr. He was wanted to play with Carr. They are good buddies on and off the field. They were very productive and FBS leaders and in pretty much every passing category, both of them. Receiving categories for Adams, passing categories for Carr. So there's something there. I'm thinking Josh Adams will figure this offense out. But, if you're one of those, if you're looking for more certainty and you have concerns that, wow, he's going to a new place, it'll be a different scheme. Will he be used the same? And Green Bay was in the slot a lot. He probably won't be. It'll be Hunter Renfrow there. I don't know. Yeah, there's other guys you could pivot to, including, the Stephon Diggs, as I mentioned. So I do rank him there. I think Davante Adams is super good. It's hard for me to dial back on him. But I have him 4th, by the way, after the 3 you mentioned. What is the earliest I would draft a rookie wide receiver, and which are your top 3? Okay, so I'm going to admit I'm trying to draft more of them because I totally hate drafting rookie wide receivers, and I think it costs me, in the big scheme of things. I got Chris Olave looks like he's in a good spot. Drake London, obviously in a good spot. I think after that, it's kind of, pick your poison. Who do you like? I mean, Garrett Wilson seems like he's going to have some guys around him. Jamison Williams, and Corey Davis, I know has not been great, but he's a, pretty competent veteran with good physical skills. If he can stay healthy, Elijah Moore seems to be coming on. So a little worried about Garrett Wilson. And also, fair to question that offense. Fair to question Atlanta's offense as well. I think Jahan Dotson seems to be a guy. I mean, Christian Watson, is in a good spot. So I think you kind of, toss your dart. After those first 2, I think you're taking your chances a little bit. I have not been targeting enough of them. I'm trying to target more of them in hopes that some go out. And I'm kind of spreading it around a little bit. I think most people seem to think Olave's in a really good spot, both in terms of, Jameis Winston being willing to throw the ball down the field. And I think Drake London, just walks into a certain wide receiver 1 role. The question is, will the quarterback play support him? Well, if I'm a big fan of drafting, wide receiver 1s from lousy teams later in drafts, why would I not draft a talented guy like Drake London, who was my top rookie coming in this season? So I'm fine with him. What is the earliest I would draft him? Let me take a look and see at some of my drafts, and that makes it easy to say this. Just look at my shares and see when the earliest I drafted them is. My teams, football teams, football player shares. Let me see how. All my shares might be on Sleeper. I'm searching on Best Ball 10s. So not as easy as a search on Sleeper. I think the going price for some of these guys is the thing that keeps me the uncertainty. Let me just bring up the ADP real quick here so I don't confound you totally. Drake London is going as early as 39. So right outside the top 3. I think that's a super fair price. Chris Olave, 48, Sky Moore, 49, Garrett Wilson, 51, Christian Watson, 54. I think these are all fair gambles, right? And you are rolling the dice a little bit. I think Jahan Dotson. So a lot of these guys I'm getting in best balls, I'm getting it like as last round flyers, the Jahan Dotsons of the world, or even Sky Moore. And, so again, not a huge fan of those guys, but it turns out some of them can be really good, said Jamar Chase. and others, right? Justin Jefferson's been really good. So, so I'm more investing in them as dynasty assets than redraft assets. So just kind of my habit, my approach has always been that. So, but I do think there are some guys with some pretty clear paths to workload that would be of interest. And those are the ones. It's, Olave and London Olave for me at the top. And then after that, kind of catch can. Pedro is finding Marlon Mack interesting. Thoughts on this backfield? Minefield or hidden gem? Both. So the offensive line there is lousy. I am with you, Pedro. I am finding Marlon Mack. So I'm kind of keen on previously productive players finding themselves in new situations. Is there a chance that they can regain some of their recent run? I think there is in this case. I'll say this. I talked to John McClain of the Houston Chronicle, recently retired. Great, longtime sports writer, still working on radio in Houston. I asked him about Marlon Mack, and he said, he sucks. Okay, he hasn't actually sucked when he's played, though. And, I do think Dameon Pierce, they want him to be the starter. But Marlon Mack gets an opportunity, and essentially, I talk about this a lot. I'm into free square plays, old, mean, cheap. That's me. When I can get these guys that maybe have potential roles for next to nothing, I can draft them knowing, especially in redraft, not so much in best ball, knowing that I'll just move on, right? I don't have an investment, a significant enough investment to worry about releasing them if they're not meeting any expectations or if they're falling short. Look, I had Phillip Lindsay as that guy last year on the same team as one of my free square players. He didn't pan out. I dumped him. It's not hard. You can just move on. And there are other guys come cruising along every season. So totally not against drafting Marlon Mack as that. I think people are drafting Dameon Pierce much earlier. So I find Mack as a free square. So I'm okay. But honestly, Pedro, the minefield or hidden gem, that is the range of possible outcomes, right? It's a bad offensive line. So remember that. Few two for you is having to decide between J.K. Dobbins and Travis Etienne in a Dynasty Standard League. I'm probably going J.K. Dobbins. I would feel a lot better knowing, both these guys coming off injury, right? And I want to say, we're viewing Etienne as a receiving asset, mostly because that's kind of what Urban Meyer said they were drafting him to be, right? As a kind of a chess piece type player, maybe not a true feature back. In college, he was a true feature back. He had 70 career touchdowns, right? Runs. I mean, he was a hell of a player. So I think he has a fair amount of upside, maybe not on his run-focused or run-oriented team. There will be a James Robinson back at some point. Also, J.K. Dobbins coming off the ACL. I think he'll be fine. Boy, if this was a decision you could put off until August when you can see how both of them look on the field in training camp, it would be great. And I'm not going to be surprised if J.K. Dobbins starts training camp on the PUP list. Remember, there's a difference between starting training camp and starting the season. You start the season, you're going to miss 6 games and, take a little time to come back after that. So if I have any indication that Dobbins is going to be okay and be ready to start the season, I'm probably going to be more interested in him because I just think that rushing attack is going to be the primary feature of that offense for as long as Lamar Jackson is there. By the way, Lamar Jackson putting out on his Twitter and Instagram today, I need dollar signs. I don't know if he needs dollar signs or the actual dollars. I think it's interesting that he's saying this now because the Ravens have been trying to get him to renegotiate or talk about his, work on a new contract for 2 years now, and he has not been willing to do that. He's his own agent. So, I don't know. Seems a little odd to be asking for the money today. A little concerning, but it's very cryptic and it just happened, so I don't want to read too much into it. But anyway, I think that's a more established offense. I think you could say the Jaguars are an up-and-coming offense. We have not seen it yet, but with a competent coaching staff, maybe there's some room. But also, just remember that James Robinson is there. I'd like to see – I think Etienne, we're a little more confident in where he is in his return from the injury just because we've heard more about it than we've heard about Dobbins. But talking to people on the ground in Baltimore, they expect him to be ready for week 1. So if I was just standing here, knowing both of them were going to be healthy, if I had to decide today and I'm going to pretend that my injury agnosticity goes into dynasty and these longer-term situations, I'm going with Dobbins, slight lean over Etienne. Do I think the Bucs are a little annoyed by Fournette showing up at camp overweight 2 years in a row? I'm hearing Rachaad White has a legitimate chance to earn the starting job. Well, I'm sure he does. I mean, they always ostensibly a competition for everything. I'm sure the Bucs were annoyed last year when he showed up a little overweight. They were not annoyed when he caught nearly 70 passes and helped carry them into the postseason. So, this will, it's a little early to get worried about how somebody showed up for camp. Remember, he didn't sign with the team until a little later, and so, maybe he was had an extended vacation, whatever. I'm not going to get too down on players, even ones with Fournette's history of, it's only been recently the success has come. But again, this is a case where Tom Brady is one of those quarterbacks who, if you don't have his trust, you're not going to get the ball right in passes. We've seen this over the course of his career. You have to be where he thinks you're going to be, when he thinks you're going to be there, or he gets pissed. Leonard Fournette turned into that guy last year who was where Tom Brady wanted him to be when he wanted him to be there, and it paid off in spades, and I think it will again this year, especially if Chris Godwin is slow to start the season, isn't available early on, if Gronk doesn't come back, which people don't seem to think he will. So, I get it. A lot of people like Rachaad White, and they're very enthusiastic about him. I don't want to just, totally be dismissive of him, but I don't think that's their plan. I think their plan is for annoyed or not, Leonard Fournette to come in and have a role similar to last year. You're welcome, Andrew. You're welcome, Evelyn. Jimmy Williams. Yes, you're welcome. Yeah, I forgot to say that. You can hit the like button if you like what you're hearing here. It helps the algorithm. Also, if you don't like me, hit the dislike button. I'm going to hit it now. This guy's horrible. But just, hit whatever. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you would like. We would love to have you back. Again, we try to do this every week. I know I have not been here for 6 weeks. I've been making magazines. If you missed the start of this show, you can go to the website, footballdiehards.com, and purchase them all and have them delivered to your doorstep. Or if you're old-fashioned people, you can run out to the stores, the Barnes & Nobles, the CVS's, the Walmarts, the Kroger's, all your grocery stores, major retailers will have these on the newsstands. But some of us like to have things delivered directly to us because we don't like to leave the house unless we have to. And we're going to the Scott Fish Bowl next weekend. Yeah. Okay. So all that. By the way, there's new articles up on the website. I keep meaning to tell you, I got some new pieces up from Gary Davenport and Jamie Calandro. They'll also feature in the magazines. Tara Roberts doing some contributions for us as well. She does great work, from Dynasty Vipers and a number of other websites as well. But she has some best ball steals and best ball players to avoid. Gary has the 10 biggest must draft and must avoid fantasy football players. So go to the website. If you're a subscriber, you can grab those articles right away. And money-making tips from a DFS $1 million winner. Jamie interviews Brian Jester, a great DFS player, and some really good tidbits in there. I'm looking forward to diving back in. Mock draft, I think next week, Andrea, we're talking about 7 p.m. Eastern time is what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. So watch my Twitter feed, Andrea. Do I take Josh Allen in the 4th, or would you wait until the 10th and take Dak or Rodgers? The 4th seems high. The 4th does seem high, but sometimes I do that. Here's the thing on quarterbacks for me. If I get to a point in the draft where I just don't love anybody, I don't love any running backs, I don't love any of the wide receivers, I don't feel like I have to have the tight end there, I'll go ahead and take quarterback. And when I do it like that, there's a quarterback at every level waiting for me. You're starting with, even as early as the 3rd round, you'll see Josh Allen go in some leagues. And this is a super flex and 2 quarterback leagues aside. Obviously, he's going to go earlier. All those guys are going to go earlier. But yeah, so that's kind of how I do it. I mean, there's all kinds of value. Like I love getting Matthew Stafford. I get him a lot into the double-digit rounds, right? I mean, the guys you mentioned as well. So it seems high, but sometimes when I get to a point, even the 4th, 5th, 6th rounds, when I'm just going, man, I don't like any of these other players, any of the other positions. Boom, I just pivot and go quarterback. There's always a quarterback I like everywhere, including Josh Allen in the 4th round. I hope that helps, Andrew. Paul DeSantis, keeper league, need to keep one of these 3, Kamara, Swift, or Lamb. Welcome back, and thanks as always. Thank you for coming, Paul. I appreciate it. I'm probably keeping Lamb. Kamara, we know what the issue is right now. So, in the case you don't, off-field issues, I don't know that it's even going to be something that affects him this year. Might not be affected, might not affect him until next year. He might not face any punishment, but he is facing felony charges. It's not good. And apparently there is video of this, and the league will see that, whether he's convicted of a crime or not. But what the league has tended to do in criminal cases is wait until there is resolution before they hand down their judgment and their discipline. So it could be pushed out to next year. So I like Kamara an awful lot, but so let's maybe, Paul, this is the answer. If you can keep beyond this year, then Lamb for sure. If not, I might be leaning, Lamb or Swift. It's a little closer conversation. Brian Larkin wants to know if there's any word from Cleveland about Kareem Hunt being traded. There have been rumors of this. Have yet to see anything concrete or solid. It would obviously, if Kareem Hunt goes to a team that needs a running back, he would immediately become a candidate, a high end. At very worst, a high end running back too. I think it's safe to say. So yeah. So we'll be watching that. I'm not going to get my hopes up too high. Because we get these rumors sometime. They do have the Ernest Johnson. Maybe they trade him. It's haven't heard anything concrete. I'll just go with that. But I do think Kareem Hunt is like an undervalued asset, even working behind Nick Chubb. I think in fantasy drafts he goes way later than he generally produces, and he's a value. If he goes somewhere else, he'll be a fantastic value. I'm guessing. Especially, I'll go to probably a team that needs one if someone's trading for him. A few two for you. Deciding between Dobbins and ETN. I thought I did this one. Oh, the second part of that question that I missed. So I did, finally, after much conversation with myself, I went with Dobbins slightly over to ETN for the reason stated. Dalvin Cook, is it time to trade him or keep him another year? I might want to keep him another year just to see what he could do, in this new offense with Kevin O'Connell. It won't be as run heavy, but that doesn't mean he can't be maybe even more effective in this offense. If it's a more effective offense in general and he gets some more work as a receiver, thinking of Dalvin Cook with the ball in space more is a fantastic thing. So I'm probably still holding, but if you can get, I'm not holding to the point where if I'm getting killer offers for him, I'm not open to them. So might depend on the offers. Time to consider DJ Moore a true wide receiver one with Baker now? No. Do not pay for him as such. I consider him like a borderline. I think he's been that good. He's been consistently productive. I mentioned this before, and let me bring up the numbers because I do have them, and I think they bear mentioning here. Let's see. Moore has 301 catches, 4,313 yards, 14 touchdowns. He's topped 1,100 yards in each of the last 3 seasons. He's one of only 2 players in the NFL to do that. Stephon Diggs is the other. He also has the longest active streak of consecutive games with 1,200 scrimmage yards among wide receivers, with 3 Devontae Adams, Diggs, Tyreek Hill, and Justin Jefferson, each behind him with 2. So I think he's fantastic, right? And the production is there. The thing that's been missing from his game is touchdowns. Does Baker give him those touchdowns? Maybe, maybe not. Touchdowns are the hardest thing to bank on in fantasy and in the NFL. So at some point, I do believe DJ Moore is going to have a year where he scores a bunch of touchdowns, and we're all going to love him way more than probably we should the next season. But until then, I think you're getting good value on him and a guy that can produce wide receiver one numbers any given week. But a lot of it has to come on volume and yardage. Mark Spafford loves the upside of Javonte Williams, but understands the Gordon influence. He's picking 12th. Would you take him there? It's maybe a little early for me, but you're not getting him if you don't. Well, you might get him. So if you're picking 12th, you could get him 13th as well. But either of those spots, if you don't take him there, you're not getting him. So if you like him and you like the upside and think he's going to be the guy, and there's a reason to argue for that, right? Melvin Gordon is not on the same contract now. They let him go out and explore the world. They didn't bust their ass to keep him, right? They are not paying him what they were paying him last year, $8 million this year, I think $2.5 million. I want to say there's incentives though. Most of those incentives are tied to receptions, I'm told. So maybe that's something. Look, I think Javonte Williams is a great back, and a really exciting runner to watch, a super hard runner. So I like everything about him except Melvin Gordon. So I think picking him at that point is not totally unreasonable. I've seen him go earlier this summer and earlier this spring in best balls was way too high. I see him in the middle of the first round. I think I can make a point. If you love him and you love the upside, you're not getting him somewhere else. Take him at 12 or 13. First 2 games, Pedro's getting, so Pedro's kind of throwing out some numbers on there. So, I don't think, Look, Sam Darnold is, Robbie Anderson was arguing this week that the Jets threw him out there too early and he shouldn't have been a starter right away. I don't know if you want to take that route or not. But there were some games where he just came off as horrible. The New England game comes to mind where he was seeing ghosts. And I mean, everyone remembers that, but he's just never been the same quarterback since then. He seems to be looking over his shoulder, doesn't seem to have the great pocket presence. And this is not all on him. He's a talented player, but, nobody's put him in position to win. And so maybe that's going to be an ongoing issue here. I think he's going to get fewer opportunities here. Maybe they trade him. Maybe Seattle's interested. Heard they don't have a great quarterback. The U.S. Open tennis thinks that Drew Lock is not good. So there you have it. Thank you two for you. I keep saying that. It's like interesting to read that. You say it wrong. Appreciate you joining Football Diehards. Andrea looks like he'll be in. Pedro mock drafting, and I found myself stacking my teams with wide receivers and RBs and ending up with Derek Carr in the 10th. I think I agree with Derek Carr. I like Derek Carr probably more than the world. I think people, I don't know what the view of him is. Maybe we're just all sick of hearing his brother root for him openly on NFL Network. I don't know, but maybe that's just me. So on the stacking portion of this, Pedro, I think it's worth pointing out, and especially in best balls, is I like to stack when it happens organically. It happens a lot with the Raiders. If you're getting, whether it's Adams or Waller, Renfro is a pretty decent value right now, given his production last year. And, I think he'll continue to be a big part of this offense too. So, but you can get those guys at the kind of prices, and Carr is cheap enough that you can you can easily add him. You don't have to force the issue and overpay. So I'm a big fan of that when I'm stacking in best balls for sure. Not looking to force any stacks in any of my redraft leagues, but when they happen naturally and organically, like it can with Carr, to some degree this year as well with Tom Brady, certainly with Matthew Stafford. I think there's a lot of these quarterbacks that are going a little later where you can get some decent stacks, especially in best ball. And when you can do that, it's a good deal. I can see him being a steal this year for sure. I think he has top 10 potential without a doubt. We'll see what Josh McDaniels can come with that offense. All right, everybody, I'm going to wrap this one up. Again, next week, I'm going to be in Los Angeles. I'm trying to figure out the technology to maybe do a little live streaming from the Trophy Smack headquarters, where I'll be drafting in Scott Fishbowl 12 with a great cast of characters. If you want to check that out, please do. Yes, Jimmy, I will before I call this a day. I'm going to undislike myself. It scared me. Like this or don't like it if you don't like it. But we hit the button either way. Hit the subscribe button right below. And catch me every week when I'm on. I'd love to see you here. I pointed outside the screen, but that's okay. I'd like to see you here every week. And as the season draws nearer, this will become a consistent thing once again, as it was earlier this offseason. Just had to take a break. Magazines take a lot of bandwidth, chew up a lot of my time. Go out and get those magazines. If you find them on your newsstands, buy them up. It's the Fantasy Football Pro Forecast, the 33rd year, the draft book, the cheat sheets, and Diehards, Football Diehards magazine. If you don't want to miss them, go to the website, footballdiehards.com. Buy them there. They'll come right in your mailbox. Jimmy wanted me to take a moment to talk about Tony and Lazard and where I project them, 12-team league. So I think it's not, I think both of them have a ton of upside. I think Lazard, to me, looks like he'll be the more consistent play. Remember, he is the holdover or the top holdover. I mean, you're not counting Randall Cobb and the likes of that. But there are some things to like about Lazard. I go back a couple of years ago. There was a game in New Orleans where he really broke out, but he was hurt in that game, and we didn't see him for a while after that. Last year, he came up career highs in all the key categories: targets, receptions, receiving yards, touchdowns, fantasy points, but still finished, as a wide receiver 4. Obviously, that'll change again. One of the things that kind of makes me intrigued by him, though, he was tied for 8th in the NFL with 12 end zone targets, even in that, secondary role. And so obviously the path to workload is critical here. Devontae Adams, 169 targets out of the way. I think Lazard, if he stays healthy, could lead that team in targets. I don't know what Tony is. I think we saw him in a microcosm, right? Last year in Dallas, where he both, had a wildly productive game and punched somebody in the face and got kicked out. That seems to be the range of outcomes for him. I like him. I think honestly, I'm getting more Galladay because he's cheaper, but I do have both Tony and Galladay in some of my best balls. Getting him as wide receiver 4 or 5 seems about where I'm taking them. There you have it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Watch me on Twitter. Follow me at Football Diehard. Probably you already do. Follow the website at FF Diehards as well. You'll get notifications there of these videos. Again, watch for Wednesday mock draft on Sleeper. So have your Sleeper account. If you don't have one, go make one. You'll need it to sign up for these mock drafts. And we'll sit here and we'll do the mock draft live. You'll see it on the screen. We'll analyze it. If you don't want to draft, that's fine. You can hear me sit around and talk about it. And over the course of time, we'll bring in other voices and let them talk about them as well and have a good old time right here on the Football Diehards YouTube channel. Go to footballdiehards.com for more information on all these things and to order all the products that are available. Catch me on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio Monday through Friday, 8 to 10. This coming week is going to be a little different. Dempsey's on vacation. I'm doing the FSGA Championship Draft with Ray Flowers on Monday night from 8 to 10. Tuesday night, it'll be me solo. Wednesday night, Bensty and Jen Piacente are doing a live in-game betting show, so I'll be preempted. Thursday, I'll be back. I'm going to do a special on the Scott Fish Bowl in the second hour. Scott Fish will be on. Matt Walsh from Trophy Smack, Chase Vernon, and some special guests to talk about the Scott Fish Bowl. So if you're playing that, check it out. If you're not playing that, find out more. And I'll also be on the Scott Fish Bowl Podathon Sunday morning at 10:30 Eastern, I want to say. So catch me and Nate Hamilton there. All right. That's a lot of stuff. Thanks. It felt great to be back. It felt great to talk to all of you as a one-way conversation. And again, we're looking at ways to bring you in and get you even more involved going forward. Thanks, everybody. See you next week from Los Angeles.